Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really cool watch for you guys, a channel first for this particular brand. The brand is Zodiac. They were originally established back in 1882. They're a Swiss-made brand. They're really, pretty much in a nutshell, they're a micro brand revival focusing on vintage-inspired designs from their very iconic part catalog, because they do have a pretty rich history dating back to some of the first few dive watches that were out and mass-produced. So when you're looking at a dive watch, some key common characteristics and design language you're going to find are, of course, the watches are going to be water resistant with some type of screw-down crown, something tough, legible, with a dive time bezel, and a diver extension if on bracelet. Now this particular model is known as the Super Sea Wolf, or as you can see across the dial there, the Super Sea Wolf 53. So let's go ahead and get this in hand and take a closer look. Okay. Now, the Super Sea Wolf actually has a retail price of $13.95, and you can find them kind of their street price online, which would be about right around $1,100 plus or minus, depending on what kind of sales and discounts you can get. Now, one of the really great things about this particular watch is it has that magic number, the 40 millimeter diameter. Also, as far as the height goes, it's right around 13 millimeters, which is pretty perfect. It's not going to be too, it's definitely not meant to be some super slim diver, but it's also not chunky because of the way that this case construction is. It has that really nice thin mid case, as you can see, with a bit of weight here in the back visually, and then a little bit definitely on the top, most of it I would say, from this great kind of raised bezel, and then the raised sapphire crystal as well. So this of course is made out of stainless steel. The crystal is sapphire, and it is domed with inner AR coating, which is great. If you're wondering about that bezel insert, it's actually K1 mineral glass. So this is going to be more shatter resistant, but less scratch resistant than the sapphire there. So it's kind of a give and take thing. I guess if I was to nitpick, I would prefer that they would have just made it sapphire to match, but I can see, of course, cost cutting reasons, and then also it does make sense to want that to be a little bit more shatter resistant, because if it takes any impacts or anything like that, it's definitely something to consider. So the bezel here is 120 clicks, which is really nice, real easy to grip, as you can see. Lines back up nice and perfect up here at the 12. And then the case there, really nice construction. I really like the multi-piece feel that you get when you look at it. As you can see, there is some height that's added by the crown and by the bezel there, and then also from the case back. But as far as the mid case goes, it actually has a really nice slim silhouette. And at just 13 millimeters high, this isn't going to be a super thick watch, and I believe it's going to wear pretty much at a very nice proportion. Everything feels very proportionate and very well thought out on this watch. Now, as you can see, the crown here is of course screwed down, and it is nicely signed and also does line up well. And the nice thing is, because of the logo the way it is, you actually have a little bit of leeway, because you could give it another quarter turn if you wanted to, and it would still line up straight. So if, let's say, you get one that doesn't line up quite perfect, you do have that little room for play, which is always nice, versus something where, let's say, it's letters or something like that on there, where there is always going to be considered a right side or wrong side up. Now, the movement inside is actually very interesting. It is the STP-1-11 with the addition of the swan neck regulator and blued hardware. So of course this has the case back, as you can see, is a solid case back, so you can't take a look there. But what I will do is I'll pull up a shot of it, and you guys can take a closer look and really see the difference. Essentially, the whole purpose of it is to offer finer adjustments, and you guys will see basically once we get to that part of the video. But let's go ahead and move on to what we can see on the outside. So the dial is really quite handsome, and I think really great with the matte blue there that you see, and then of course the orange accents. It does have those great applied indices. Fantastic color play on this one, that nice creamy outer ring there. Really, really nice. It actually uses Super Luminova C3, so it is quite bright. Water resistance 200 meters. We got those great 20 millimeter lugs there. This great Jubilee bracelet. Now it is a pin and collar system. It's not screw in, but I think for the size of these links and the proportions, I think it still makes sense. You know, pin and collar is not my favorite because they're basically even tougher to switch out than regular push pins, and they're definitely not quite as convenient as the as screw pins. But one of the things I really love about this one is the proportions. As you can see, it goes 20 down to 16 millimeters, which is very thin and makes it infinitely comfortable on the wrist. But one of the coolest features about this piece here is they actually are using their redesigned clasp. Now, some of the dive clasps that they've had in the past since their relaunch have been just a little bit odd and really, really kind of old school, with a little bit of new tech put into there. But one of the nice things about this particular clasp here is it is more of a traditional style butterfly clasp, but they actually did keep the really awesome spring-loaded adjustment there. So that makes it really, really comfortable on wrist and a really, really attractive feature for me. So although you don't have micro adjustments here, you do have really, really great range to fine tune it. So you can really tighten this up nice on your wrist wherever you feel comfortable, and then feel free to flex as you will, and it's really gonna fit nicely. And then of course, these links are quite short, so it's very easy to dial in a really nice feel on there. So let's go ahead and get this on wrist, and then I'll also pull up the pictures with the close-ups on the movement. Okay, so as you can see on wrist, I think it looks really great. I got the zoomed out kind of wrist shot here, so you get a better idea of how it's gonna look on a full arm and not just kind of in your face where everything's gonna look a bit bigger on your typical wrist shot there. But as you can see, this wears really quite beautifully. Those lugs taper down really well. Doesn't look bulbous. The really nice angles on that bezel just really shine there, as you can see. And then the nice feature here. Oh man, right there, that just sells this watch for me. I mean, apart from the aesthetics, because they are really nice, color play and whatnot, but man, that ability, other brands should be taking note. I mean, that's just really cool. Feels great. Now on the wrist, I mean, I have a 7 1/4 inch wrist, so 7.25 inches, and this thing just wears really well. And you know, I really can't say enough good things about it. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at the movement here. Ooh. So this is actually an article that a blog to watch did, and they actually have some pictures of this same movement in another model with a display case back. So as you can see, the regulator there is actually a screw on the blued swan neck, and then it has the blued screws. But because you can actually adjust it by tightening or loosening the screw there, that's just a way more finer adjustment than you would find with a typical 2824 clone, where basically you're more so tightening and loosening a screw, and then it has like a little knob essentially that's going to be pointing to, you know, in between however many positions and clicks, I would say, you're going to be ranging Here's a really nice close-up shot of it, as you can see. So it's just gonna allow for a really, really nice, precise, adjustment there. So really, really cool. This is not the type of thing you see pretty much in lower end movements. The swan neck regulators are definitely really a different and interesting choice, and I think it's something that helps set apart the STP movement as far as a clone goes, because a lot of the times you see these clones and they don't really bring anything to the table, and STP, what makes them different is that essentially they're all pretty well decorated and a level up as far as their in-house regulations as far as timing goes. The standard movements are actually regulated pretty well versus standard DTA movement, where you're going to have to kind of buy up to definitely get into the range where they're going to be regulated. So really cool there, guys. You can definitely look more up online and do a little bit more research on it, but I was very impressed. I kind of wish that this piece did come with a see-through case back, but it does make sense for this to have a solid case back, because it does pay tribute to watches of the past, and of course they all did have solid case backs on the original divers. And this actually has a pretty cool looking case back, which I guess I could show you guys again real quick. I don't remember if I covered that in the last shot, but as you can see, really nice. It's definitely a really clean, crisp design. Some fine etching, nice stamp, definitely some great contrast as far as the textures go with the radial brushing, and then you have that nice matte finish there that kind of blasted towards the center there around the logo. So really cool. But let's go ahead and get this ready for some loom shots. Okay, get it lined up a little bit better there. Alright, so let's go ahead and hit the lights. Now, as you can see, the loom is really nice, and a lot of that does have to do with, of course, that they used C3, but also that it has a pretty nice space as far as the size of the indices and the thickness of the hands and whatnot. I think they definitely used a thinner coat, because normally you'd see C3, if it was a little bit thicker with this much space, it would probably be burning a bit brighter. The nice thing here, though, is even though they use C3, it actually does look really white, when it's in daylight. So as you can see, the loom can only go so far. It's already starting to fade there a bit, but this wasn't really on a full charge. But let's go ahead and move to these low light transition shots so you can get a nice idea of what the watch will look like, kind of coming in and outdoors, in a non-super well-lit area. My studio lights definitely will do a great job of imitating direct sunlight, but hey, that's not where you're going to spend all your time at. And another thing too that the low light transition shows is really the quality and level of finishing. It really highlights it. So really impressive, I'd say. Big fan. So, I mean, what can I say about this piece while the color correction kind of goes back there as the camera readjusts to having the lights back on? Well, on the wrist, it has really classic proportions. It wears smaller than a 40 millimeter than the 40 millimeter bezel width, honestly, because it actually is a bit smaller than the 40 millimeter bezel. Now, there are quite a few model variants that are out there for this particular version. Different strap options as well, and a lot of cool color combos, which Zodiac is really known for right now. They have a really great eye, and I think as far as their aesthetics go, they're really leading the way. Now, comparable models, you know, there's a lot. The space right now for, you know, for modern vintage, that whole genre, you know, there's a lot out there. Standouts being something like the Oris Diver 65 or the Raymond Wheel Freelancer Diver. And this kind of fits in, I'd say, in the middle of those two. One is more modern, one is definitely more old school. This kind of mixes the bit of modern with the bit of the old school. So I think it's really cool. Bottom line, you know, this is really kind of a happy median between a top micro brand offering and an entry-level established mid-tier piece. And so it's kind of a middle range in either. I don't know if this is going to be anybody's grail watch or something they're going to aspire to, but I think it's definitely a fun watch to have in the rotation. The fit and finish is very strong. I'd say it's very consistent. The Jubilee is really nice. I wouldn't say it's as nice as the Jubilees that I've seen on the Raymond Weil Freelancers, but of course this Jubilee is going to be nicer than something you'd find like on a Seiko SKX, which isn't tough, honestly. But it's a very solid piece, super comfortable. I mean, I find myself gravitating towards this watch pretty much any chance I get. It's a great weekend watch. And then of course it's water resistant. It does have some brand recognition. The watch aficionados will remember Zodiac, and then the kind of noobs, I would say, well, you know, could have a pretty good idea of Zodiac as well. So it does carry a little bit of brand cachet with it. But, you know, no connotations. It's not like if, you know, like owning a Rolex, right? Some people might have some preconceived ideas about who you are if you own like a Rolex or a Tag. A Zodiac, not so sure you're going to catch any of that beef there. But all in all, I'd say this is a really fine piece. If you've been interested in checking it out, I think you definitely should, especially if you're looking for something in that sweet spot as far as the 40mm range goes. Because of that nice ring, that cream ring around the dial, it makes the dial actually a little bit smaller. So then it actually helps the watch wear even a little bit smaller. So even though the bezel is 40mm, the case is slightly smaller. The dial being a little bit smaller makes the watch wear smaller. So it really does give you that vintage aesthetic, but it gives you the nice solid feel on wrist. Gives you a little bit more wrist presence, something that's a little bit more modern, something that feels a little bit more solid. And then with that great clasp, I mean, to me, that's kind of that almost sells the whole piece. And, you know, again, aside from the aesthetic, which I think this is just really a gorgeously designed and executed watch. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do hit like. If you haven't already, do subscribe, and make sure to hit the notification bell as well. Thanks, guys. Bye.